morning to you. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. A little bit later in the show, Munch Bishop will join us. We'll talk a little Indians, a little Browns. We will begin by talking about the Browns. Browns wrapped up mandatory minicamp 3 days, and they beat the weather. It was a chance for Kevin Stefanski to get his players out on the field and coach them up out in Berea. All right, one of the really good signs out in Berea during mandatory minicamp, Odell Beckham Jr. out there taking part in it and running routes and doing some really good things just 6.5 months removed from ACL surgery. So the question is, can Odell Beckham Jr. help take this Browns offense to another level? Good Morning Football's Nate Burleson addressed that question.
For me, will Odell be the X factor? Yes, he will be the X factor, the flex factor, and the next factor. What do I mean by next factor? He will allow this team, help this team, propel this team to take that next step. That's why I call him the next factor. How did he look during minicamp? He looked great. He was fantastic. He moved around fast. But Odell's been here before. This isn't his first time bouncing back from a significant injury. So what is he going to have to do? One, he's going to have to be in tremendous shape. He's going to have to prove that he still can be a number 1/2 wide receiver, because we have to respect that Jarvis Landry is still an absolute dog. But more importantly, he's going to have to prove that he can add to this offense that move without him.
Time to welcome in Doug Lesmerises, columnist for The Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. So what do you think, Doug? Is it Odell Beckham's turn? Ooh. Yeah. What do you make of it? Is Odell the guy that gets it done, pulls him up?
Yeah. I was not looking for flex factor because I clearly have none. But I was Googling causation versus correlation before we got on here. And I think some people thought there was a cause and effect relationship between Odell Beckham getting hurt last year and the Browns offense taking off. And I don't think there's any cause and effect. I think it just happened at the same time because it took that long for Baker Mayfield to get used to Kevin Stefanski's offense and everything to fall into place. And so when you add Odell back in, yeah, I absolutely think that he will take off. I mean, listen, he has to stay healthy. There's enough there now, right? The couple years in New York and what's happened in Cleveland, it's not his fault necessarily. I mean, he hurts himself last year going hard, trying to help his team, but he's got to stay on the field. So, I don't know. Every year you get older, that gets a little harder. But I do think, assuming he's healthy, and that's a big assumption maybe, yeah. I think he lifts them for reasons we've talked about here before, which is he just opens up everything else because, as Nate Burleson pointed out, Jarvis is still going to be Jarvis, but, there's such different receivers. What Odell might be able to do down the field and sort of expand what I think is sort of the last part of this offense is absolutely potentially there.
Is it fair to expect him to be a top 10 receiver still in the NFL? Is that fair? I mean, he hasn't been the last couple of years, but he's been hurt. Is it fair to expect him to be a top 10 receiver?
I think probably the thing holding him back from that categorization at this point is the Browns offense. Is that I don't know if the Browns are capable of having a top 10 receiver when you have the commitment to the run game, when you have the way that Kevin Stefanski uses tight ends. So I don't know that he'll ever be characterized that way again, because there is just like this upper tier that is just like the elite of the elite of the elite, like the no doubt about it, number one receivers. And maybe he won't quite be in the top tier ever again, but man, he can be right at the top of the second tier. And just because he's, maybe not, I don't know, a top 10 guy doesn't mean he's not a receiver who can help you win the Super Bowl. Can he be a receiver that can help the Browns win the Super Bowl? I have no doubt about that.
You know what? The other thing that I think is, as you get to be, the age where you can see your career on the downside, you probably would rather be that guy that helps a team win the Super Bowl than, one of the guys who's one of the best in the league but isn't in the playoffs.
Well, when you're young, I mean, it's fun to put up stats and sort of be the focal point of an offense. But yeah, Odell just, not saying that it's his fault, but has not been a guy who's had a ton of playoff success at this point in his career. So yeah, I think he would welcome that. And again, it's one of those things. It's like hashtag too many good players. You can joke about it, but there also is some point to it that if we're going to go by raw stats, if we're going to go by certain accumulation numbers, then guys for the Browns maybe aren't going to measure up statistically because they have a lot of them. And that is a good thing. But yeah, if he's playing in the AFC Championship game, I don't think he'll be worried if he's, 16th in the league in receiving instead of in the top 10.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, here are 4 Browns on offense with the most to prove, according to dogpounddaily.com. Let's see who you think of these 4 has the most to prove. We've got Austin Hooper, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield. Of those 4, which one do you think has the most to prove this year?
I think it's Hooper, and he's paid like a dude, right? And he put up numbers in Atlanta where, they're getting him some easy throws in that offense. But in 2019 in Atlanta, by PFF stats, he's a top 10 tight end, both in receiving numbers and overall numbers. Last year by PFF, he's 36th, both in receiving numbers for a tight end and overall rating for a tight end. So he needs to be better. He's being paid to be better. And, he was pretty decent in Atlanta, but he didn't bring the rep that Odell brought. And I think Jarvis is Jarvis. Like, I don't know that Jarvis Landry has anything to prove, like, for the rest of his football life. What more? That guy is what he is, which is incredibly reliable. And Baker, I think, is still ascending. And so it's like, on one hand, it's like, well, Baker's got a contract waiting out there and all that. He could be the answer to almost any question about the Browns offense. But Hooper got his money and, didn't play up to his contract a year ago. And so I think he's the guy that needs to show that he's sort of worth the money that the Browns paid him to bring him here.
How motivated do you think Odell Beckham Jr. is coming back as, again, a guy that's been banged up a couple of years, hasn't put up the numbers that he has, probably sick of hearing about it too?
I mean, I like Odell, and I like Odell's approach to life, that he does do some other things, but he holds himself accountable, I think, and gets himself ready for a football season in his own way. And when you are sort of a genius level talent, maybe you don't have to go about everything the way that every other normal person goes about it. So I've always sort of trusted Odell to do what he needs to do in his way to get himself ready. And I think he does do that. And I think he will do that again. But I think every time you have something go a little bit off track, you sort of open yourself up to people questioning you. And then I do think that spins back around as motivation. So, you would get enough of the things from Odell on social media and that kind of thing that clearly indicate that he is, wanting to prove people wrong to some degree. But I do think, I think the number one motivation is he has a chance to do something from a team standpoint with the Cleveland Browns this season that he's never really been a part of in his career. And I think when you are a guy with his talent at this stage in his career, that still is the number one thing beyond, the proven people wrong kind of thing.
Yeah, and that all those things should mean good things for the Browns on the football field. Doug Lesmerises, columnist from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. There's a lot of talk about Baker Mayfield and the contract. Should he get it? Should he get a big one? Should you do it now? Should you do it at training camp? Should you do it during the season? A former general manager has an interesting take on it. We'll have that when Sports4CLE returns. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns football with Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. So Mike Tannenbaum, former general manager of the New York Jets, now on ESPN, mostly on Get Up, was asked about when he would extend Baker Mayfield.
I would not sign Baker Mayfield. They still have essentially 3 more years. This year, next year, they can always franchise him. He was only 20th in QBR in drop back passing. He has really just an above average skill set. And Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, when he was the offensive coordinator in Minnesota, won with other players like Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins. If I'm the Browns, I allocate some of that money right now to guys like Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward. I would not sign Baker Mayfield.
You know, last year it was Roethlisberger. This year, apparently, Mike T is going to take aim at Baker Mayfield and just throw shots at him. So now I know where we are. I mean, like, give the guy a break. Can we please? Look at what he has dealt with since coming into the league. I know no situation is easy, but come on. The guy had Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley. What? Come on, okay? Then he goes to Freddie Kitchens, and now he's got Kevin Stefanski. This is the first offseason where Baker has had the same coaching staff. So give the guy, cut him some slack. And I just looked during the break, I just looked at all 32, who are the starting QBs in the league. I would take Baker over 19 of those guys. I understand you can look at stats and everything, but compare Baker to every other QB. There aren't a lot of other QBs that I would rather have instead of Baker. So, but I see I'm not going to change Mike's mind because he's just dug in on this.
Doug Lesmerises, I think those are valid points that Kimberly Martin made that a lot of the national media is overlooking with Baker Mayfield.
Do they show our clips on Get Up and have them react to us? Because this is, I mean, we're bringing the heat as much as those guys. I don't even know what half those conversations are. So here, this is the thing I tell my kids. You have to live in the world, right? And so living in the world, people, the idea that oh no, if you sign Baker Mayfield to an extension and he's not a top 10 quarterback, then somehow that's going to be a negative for your franchise. You have to do it. It doesn't matter where he's ranked, whether he's the 8th best quarterback or the 14th or whatever. You just have to do it at some point. I'm not saying you have to do it this offseason, but they're going to have to do it because he's going to be their quarterback. And honestly, Mike Tannenbaum, right? He is a former. He's not currently employed by a team, right?
No,
now, neither am I.
Right.
Neither am I. But I also have never been fired. So he's a former GM. So his solution is like Kevin Stefanski is one with Case Keenum. I don't even know. That's former GM talk. Like, just get a guy who's like the 38th best quarterback, and then you're fine. It's insane.
2 words: Mark Sanchez. That's a guy he thought you should invest in.
Well, and that's the thing. But here's the thing. And like honestly, like you just have to do it. It comes up a lot, like with baseball contracts and stuff. Sometimes you're signing a guy to a 6-year deal, and like it's like, man, by the time this guy's in his 5th and 6th year, he's not going to be worth the money. It's like, well, that's not really what you're paying for. This is the cost of doing business. And if you want him now, while he's still good in the first 3 years, you've got to give him a 6-year deal. And then, yes, he's going to be overpaid at the end. But what's your other choice? You're going to not have players? Like you just have to do it. The Browns have a quarterback now. So a lot of this, like, honestly, if your answer is don't sign him, right? Like the answer, like it's not about when, because most of the discussions that we have on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast and that kind of thing are about when. Mm-hmm. If your answer is don't, like if he's not like a top 10 quarterback in the next year or two, don't sign him. What are you doing? Like, what's your solution then? Is your solution the jersey with 25 names on it? What is your solution? Because people act like you're in jail if you sign a bad quarterback contract. The Rams signed Jared Goff. They made a Super Bowl, and now they have Matthew Stafford. That turned out to be like a bad contract. They're fine. They're fine. The Eagles signed Carson Wentz. There's a little bit of a sticky situation here, right? They won a Super Bowl. Yep. Like, it worked out. It's okay. Like, the worst – here's the thing. The worst case scenario of signing Baker to the extension, well, I don't know what it is. That he's not as good as you think. Okay, fine. Then you figure it out. But what you can't have is a good quarterback where you create unnecessary uncertainty because you're playing if you don't sign him, then in year 3 or whatever, like that's how people get fired. This is an uncertain world. Don't add uncertainty because you're trying to guarantee that, like, oh, what if he's only the 11th best quarterback? They're just going to sign him. And that's why sometimes people get fired.
The bottom line is, can you win a Super Bowl with him? He doesn't have to be a top 10 quarterback. If you win a Super Bowl with him, he's done what you've brought him in to do. All right, we're going to move.
And you're right, but can you legitimately try to win a Super Bowl with him?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right? I mean, like he is not holding them back.
Yes.
So you can't play the wait for Patrick Mahomes game because you're going to be waiting for 100 years.
Right.
Right? He's your guy. They're going to sign him, and former GMs are going to be on TV.
So Bleacher Report projects the best player at each position in the NFL for 2021. So best NFL player at running back, they say it's going to be Nick Chubb.
I don't argue. Listen, Derrick Henry is rare, right? Derrick Henry is like 2 people in one, kind of. He really is. It's like you stacked Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and they have a trench coat on, and then they run down the field. That's what Derrick Henry looks like. Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley, when he's healthy, are very, very rare. Maybe not as rare anymore, but they're special run and catch guys out of the backfield, right? That Nick Chubb is just not quite there yet. So I would think maybe the guy who would eventually like knock Nick Chubb out of a position like this might be Saquon Barkley if he comes back and he's completely healthy in New York. But if you're telling me that, like, who do you want to hand the ball to, and your answer is Nick Chubb, I'm here for that. Like, I'm here. I think that makes sense. He's maybe not always the greatest every single time in short yardage, but he will win you games in the fourth quarter. He is dangerous. He can pop one every time he breaks it. He breaks tackles. He does get to that top end speed. So I think there is a pretty interesting group of running backs. I love Kamara. He's barely even a running back. He's just sort of like a player who happens to line up in the backfield most of the time. But I am not going to argue against Nick Chubb here. And he's clearly in the top 5. He's probably in the top 3. And he absolutely can make a case for number 1.
Yeah, I would agree, because the guy that can run you over and can run by you, that's not much more you want in a running back. So here's another topic for you. Do you think we will see Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield together more often, sharing the workload than we did a year ago?
In the world, or in the dreams of people who like to write and talk about the Browns? Our good friend Dan Lobby at cleveland.com, I think, goes to sleep every night and has his Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield together dreams. Listen, I used to do this at Ohio State, too. It's like, put two tailbacks in the game together. But it's like, does anybody put two tailbacks in the game together? I know there's a thing. I mean, they've done it a couple times, and a little more when Hunt was here at first. And those guys can be great lead blockers for each other. It might be the next evolution of the Stefanski offense, that we can't only go by what we saw in year one in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski, because that's laying the groundwork, and it was a pandemic, and he didn't have the whole summer to install and get guys ready as normal. So maybe that is in round two. But I also think that what they showed last year is that they really like sort of having them as a 1-2 punch. You always have a fresh back because you don't have them in the game, and one of them is out resting while the other one's ready to come in, and they both get enough work. And then in the fourth quarter, they run you over, and they win. The Browns win games in the fourth quarter, in part because their run game can take over, in part because they have two running backs, which keeps both of them fresh, not just in the fourth quarter, but late in the season in a playoff drive as well. So I just think there was a time when I thought, going into last year, I wasn't exactly sure how the carries would break down. Would there be enough for everybody? With the way they play offense, there really is enough to have two top tailbacks and just have them share it, and they both get enough work. And so I just think that's how it will remain, and I just think they will be on the field together only in Dan Lobby's dreams.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, the thought, will Baker Mayfield win a Super Bowl for the Browns? We'll hear a former NFL star's reaction to that question. We'll also take a look at who the betting favorite is for MVP in the NFL in 2021. Sports4CLE, will be right back. Stay with us.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
COVID-19 has changed how we show up and show out with our family. Now it's time to take the first step that lets us get back to talking smack with a side of mac and cheese.
Before we can safely come together, we need the facts.
As COVID-19 vaccines become available, you may have questions.
Should I get it?
Is it safe?
Should I wait?
It's smart to question. Now, get the facts at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with Doug Lesmerises, columnist for The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. So we heard earlier from Mike Tannenbaum from ESPN. Now take a listen to a former Super Bowl winning wide receiver, Keyshawn Johnson, on ESPN's First Take. The question, will Baker Mayfield be good enough to win a Super Bowl with the Browns?
Key, let's start with you. Will Baker lead the Browns to a Super Bowl in his career?
I think so, yes. I think he will. As he continues to grow at the quarterback spot, let's be honest with each other. They have a recipe for success, which is running the football, a couple receivers on the perimeter, a tight end who's efficient, and a defense that's probably going to be much more dominant than they were a year ago. As long as Baker Mayfield can continue to not turn the football over, learn under Kevin Stefanski, there's no reason he shouldn't have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. You look at the last couple Super Bowl winners. Their numbers wasn't big. Patrick Mahomes threw for 270-something yards and won the Super Bowl with 2 picks and 2 interceptions. He was efficient, though, at times. Tom Brady last year, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, he barely threw for 200 yards. Threw 3 touchdowns. He was something like 21 to 26. Very efficient. Didn't turn the ball over. They ran the football, and they played defense. Me and Booger won the Super Bowl, okay? We didn't throw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, but we won it. Our defense was dominant, and when the offense needed to click, they clicked.
And again, the recipe for winning hasn't changed a whole lot. Again, Baker needs to take care of the football and make some key throws.
Yeah, I think the answer to this question really almost isn't about Baker Mayfield all that much, because I think if the question is Baker Mayfield going to be a winning quarterback in Cleveland for the next 15 years? I would take yes on that. Now, does that mean win a Super Bowl? I think so, but, you know, like Josh Allen's going to have something to say about that. Justin Herbert's going to have something to say about that. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. And the 2 people that really are going to have the most to say about that are Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry, because Baker Mayfield's going to be here and Myles Garrett's going to be here and a couple other guys are going to be here and the team's going to change around them. And so Baker Mayfield can be Baker Mayfield, but if you didn't have a coach you believed in and you didn't have a GM you believed in, then you would not believe in their ability to continue to build and change, because you have to with the salary cap. You have to change the team around the pillars, and Baker's going to be a pillar. So I think the belief that you, me, almost everybody watching this, that belief that's currently there in Andrew Barry and Kevin Stefanski is why I think most people would say yes to that. I think Baker is good enough, and I think he has a ceiling that he hasn't gotten to yet. You know, I mean, he might be Drew Brees, right? I mean, like he might be Russell Wilson. I don't know. Like he could get there. He's not there yet. But it's the fact that I think you have a belief in the organization that he is going to be a part of for a long time that will give the Browns multiple shots at it. Because I think if you're going to bet on a Super Bowl, it's not lightning in a bottle, right? It's well to be in the playoffs pretty much every year. Yeah, I think they are. And are they going to have multiple times where it's like, hey, they're not just in the playoffs, but they're like a 1 or 2 seed and they're going to have some home games and have a real I think that's true too. And so then you just got to pop. You got to pop and break through one of those years. And if I'm betting on yes or no, I'm betting on yes.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, while we're talking betting, William Hill MVP bets. So this is the amount of money that has been bet with the bookmaker, the sports book, William Hill, as far as the MVPs in the NFL. Baker Mayfield has the most money wagered on him in the NFL at 12%. So 12% of the money bet. Now the odds are because one of the reasons is he's plus 2,000. So that's one of the reasons why people are betting on him. But you see Allen, Brady, Mahomes, Stafford all 7%. Baker Mayfield 12%. Now, Doug, I know you are kind of the riverboat gambler type. You've got $2 or $3 that you're willing to plunk down on who might be the MVP.
People are throwing their money away betting on Baker Mayfield. Bet on the Browns. Bet on the Browns. I wouldn't bet on Baker Mayfield. It's just because of the structure. Listen, like if the Chargers are good, Justin Herbert's going to get a lot of attention for that and going to get in the MVP race. If the Bills are good, it's going to be about Josh Allen. If the Ravens are good, it's going to be about Lamar Jackson. If the Rams are good, it's going to be about Matthew Stafford. I just think there are like a lot of ways where like the Browns are really good and like Baker, people don't think Baker's their best player. And there's just, I think, too much Nick Chubb. I think there's too much Myles Garrett. I think there's too wide a variety of skill players. If Odell pops in his back, he's going to get a lot of juice. Not that Odell's going to win MVP, but I think it's going to be hard for Baker to break through. I think Myles for Defensive Player of the Year is the bet because the Browns are good. Their defense is vastly improved. Myles is healthy the whole year. And then when people are looking to reward this excellent team and they think, well, maybe Baker doesn't quite have the numbers like to really be in the MVP race. How can I reward the 14-3 Browns, and they say, aha, this guy with all the sacks, Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year. That makes more sense to me. I just don't think I'm not even sure you want Baker Mayfield to be the MVP if you want the Browns to be good, if that makes any sense. Because I think, to me, like, Baker Mayfield as an MVP, the way this team is constructed and the way we think they want to play, maybe means something else went wrong, and so he had to do more than expected. And maybe someday, but I just think there's too many big-time quarterbacks who are going to, the way their offense works, they're going to have more sort of on them to just put up stats I don't think Baker will match. So I appreciate people, wanting to take a risk on Baker. I'm just telling you, bet the Browns to win the Super Bowl. This is not your bet.
Let's take a look. Pro Football Focus ranking the top 25 players under 25 years of age. First one, Fred Warner, linebacker from the 49ers. Second one, Lamar Jackson of the Ravens. Third one, A.J. Brown, Texans. Nick Bosa from the 49ers is fourth. Denzel Ward of the Browns checks in at number 12. The only one of the Browns on the top 25 under 25.
Yeah, I'm assuming Chase Young from Ohio State with Washington is on there somewhere too. I'd get that guy on that list. That's like Denzel's. He was a true 3-year player in college, so he's nice and young, and I think he does have a late birthday even. So I mean, that's a reminder. I think sometimes smart people, when you're analyzing stuff in the NFL, you really need to look at that at age, and like when you're in your year 24 season, when you're in your year 25 or year 27 season. There's a lot of things where guys sort of peak physically at a time when they really understand the game. And I think the reminder of this is that Denzel's been around, been in the league a few years, still really young, still a lot of upside. And so I don't think he's been everything that he can be yet, but I think he does belong on a list like this. And I think the best thing about it is that he is growing into, like, he's a young veteran right now. And this team is starting to sort of be defined by young veterans. And I think young veterans, man, like that's your winning window, where guys are not worn down. They're not, sort of jaded by the league completely yet, but they're figuring it out. You're not asking second-year guys to carry you, but you have a guys like Myles and Baker and Nick Chubb and Denzel Ward, who I think have a real understanding now of what it takes in this league, but are still really young and still, I think, approaching their physical peaks.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist from The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take one more time out on the other side of the break. Bleacher report comes out with one trade that needs to be made for the Browns and each and every other team before training camp. Also, who could be the future Madden cover stars? We've got a list. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. We continue talking Browns football with Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com, as well as Plain Dealer. Doug, Bleacher Report came out with one trade each and every team should make. They have the Browns trading their 2023 third-round pick to the Cowboys for linebacker Leighton Vander Esch.
The Browns have enough good players. I veto all trades. Is that unacceptable? Can we just say they don't need anybody else? Linebacker, I think, is where everybody still looks, right? But I think they have an interesting mix there. Yeah, listen, I mean, trade a future third rounder. It doesn't sound like something they would do to me. But people love to trade future third rounders and fake trades because it doesn't hurt you. Like, no one's going to say, oh, that future third rounder is the reason we're going to be good. I think they're okay at linebacker, though. I mean, I think we all believe they're going to play 5 DBs with 3 safeties a lot. So maybe you only have 2 linebackers in the field a decent amount of the time. And, you get JOK in there. You get year 2 of Jacob Phillips. You have Anthony Walker. I just think there's enough pieces there that it's funny. Like, here's the thing. When I think fans have to realize this, too, and it's going to happen with the Andrew Berry. You can't be too locked into, like, the 15th best player on the team, because that guy's going to change and move around. And Andrew Berry's always going to be looking to improve the 15th best player on the team. They're going to be pillars, and then there's going to be moving parts. So this is like a moving parts trade. So, but I do not think there is desperation at linebacker for the Browns to make a big step up there. I think they have some interesting pieces, and I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to play a lot of 2 linebackers, and they got 3 or 4 of them that are, it's not like anybody's wowing you, but you don't have the lack of linebacking core that the national narrative seems to think. So Bleacher Report ranks the most likely future Madden cover stars, guys that haven't been on it yet. Number 1, Josh Allen. Number 2, Kyler Murray. Number 3, DK Metcalf. Trevor Lawrence, number 4. And number 5, your pick to bet on is defensive MVP, Myles Garrett.
I think there is a world where Myles winds up as one of the faces of the NFL, like sooner than later. We have not seen it. Like, we just haven't. Like, everything he's done, I think we're kind of far away from seeing the best of Myles Garrett over a 16-game season. Last year with COVID, the year before that with the suspension, it's been a bit of a weird start to a career for a guy who pretty much is great when he's out there and he's himself. And the strip sacks and everything everybody was talking about early last year, he's winning games by himself. He has won games by himself in this league. And I think as the Browns rise and stick and stay at the top of the NFL, I think there will be sort of unanimous opinion that the Browns are one of the 5 best teams and their best player is Myles Garrett. And he's interesting. He's smart. He's ripped. Like, he's like just kind of his own man. I think he's charitable. I think we have not scratched the surface on Myles Garrett as a national sporting figure. And the idea of him, listen, he's not a QB, right? Listen, a lot of QBs. So, but beyond the QBs, I think this is a guy in like 2 or 3 years when the NFL's doing something and they're like flashing photos of 5 players, Myles Garrett might be one of them. So I would bet, take your Baker MVP money and put it on Myles Garrett Madden cover instead.
There you go. Betting advice from Doug Lesmerises. Well, $2-3, something like that, I'm guessing, is where you're...
75 cents.
All right.
75 cents.
All right. Now, they came out with the protocol for vaccinated players versus unvaccinated players. And boy, is there a difference. And some of the players are already noticing. Cole Beasley tweets this: Players Association, a joke. And again, you see his thought there and the odds of what's going on, and 98% of the people who are vaccinated don't get COVID again. So, Doug, basically, the guys that are not vaccinated cannot ride on the team charters, cannot eat in the cafeteria. It's like the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. NFL isn't mandating that you get vaccinated, but they're making it pretty clear by what the vaccinated can do and what the unvaccinated can do that they think you should be vaccinated.
What am I supposed to say beyond please get vaccinated?
We can't cover them if we're not vaccinated. That's the other thing.
Yeah. So listen, I mean, this is very, here's the thing. I was going to say it's a very personal issue. Like, in a lot of ways, it's not a personal issue. We're all in this together. And everybody getting a vaccine helps the person next to you because we all help keep each other safe. And it's kind of like one of those things of like, listen, if you want to make millions of dollars and be in a group, it's hard to play football by yourself. You might have to do things that are for the best interests of the group. And I don't think asking people to like listen to science and do something that will help protect the world is a stretch. And some of these guys, listen, I mean, like we're doing a TV talk show, and we could have vaccination. These are very serious conversations that people have. For the right reason, I can listen to someone talk about vaccine hesitancy. If you're the kind of person who's basically had like a happy life where you've been able to do kind of everything you want to do, and you've had success, and the world is kind of in your favor, and everything's worked out, and boy, Cole Beasley, you worked hard, and congratulations on your career. Like, can we ask you to just get vaccinated for the good of everybody? Like, is that really an imposition? Like that, like, are your millions of dollars and your NFL career, and did you do it by yourself, or do you play with the team in a league around a whole bunch of people and trainers and front office? Like, if you want to go live in a cabin in the woods and be a hermit by yourself and do whatever you want to do, you can then do that. But sometimes in the adult world, when you're part of a group, you're asked to do something for the good of the group. And maybe if you make millions of dollars to do it, you can do what the science says to do and maybe not throw a fit about it. Now, again, I understand some people having some hesitancy here, right? But not Cole Beasley. So I don't want to hear it. And they're not mandating it. They're just making your life harder. But sometimes you don't get to do everything you want to do in life all the time. So fall asleep on your millions of dollars and get vaccinated.
You said everything that I was thinking. I can't even add anything to that. Doug Lesmerises.
But you made me say it. Now, see, I got to say it. The clip's going to come out this job.
I'm agreeing with you, though. Again, it's not you're going to be playing in front of hundreds of thousands of people. You're going to be traveling all over the place. Yes, I understand why the Players Association and why the NFL want people vaccinated. There. I said it with you there. So now they can come after both of us. Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Great stuff. Appreciate it, Doug. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right, Doug Lesmerises. Make sure you read them in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're step aside. Take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Mark Munch Bishop joins us. We'll talk a little bit more Browns. We'll also get into the Indians, heading to Pittsburgh to play the Pirates. Sports for CLE. You'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns football. We go back to ESPN. Marcus Spears, ESPN NFL Live. The question is Baker Mayfield better without Odell Beckham?
Taking the focus off of OBJ, it's the maturation of Baker Mayfield at the QB position and Kevin Stefanski and figuring out how to make sure that OBJ is ingrained in this offense and he's able to do the things that he can offer from a dynamic playmaking standpoint, but not to focus on the fact that OBJ is on the field and Baker Mayfield is a worse quarterback. That ain't Odell Beckham Jr. job. His job is to run routes, get open, catch the ball when it's thrown to him. And now he's fighting that he has to stay healthy consistently. It was similar to just feel for guys and how you operate as a quarterback. T.O. was in Dallas with Tony Romo. That hit immediately. And obviously, T.O. is a Hall of Famer from 06 to 08. And then 08 to 2010, Roy Williams came in and they didn't have that type of rapport that Tony Romo and Terrell Owens had. But that had a lot to do with where Tony Romo was as a QB. It had a lot to do with the system and the scheme and him trusting the plays that were coming from the sideline. This is not about the wide receiver. This wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr., is as dynamic as any wide receiver in the NFL. Now it's the job of Stefanski and Baker Mayfield to make sure that that doesn't take away from ultimately them having a really good offense.
Let's bring in Munch Bishop from Munch on Sports, 1350 AM. The Gambler. Munch, appreciate it. What do you make of it? You've heard it. I don't understand the rationale that Baker is better without Odell Beckham. I just don't get that thinking.
David, not only thank you for those words, thanks for having me, and I appreciate the look on your face when you say that, because here is one of the great talents in the National Football League, all righty? One of the best receivers ever. If he was on any other team, he was, oh my gosh, look at Odell Beckham Jr., what he's doing. Number one, if he does not catch a pass, he won't be happy. But that makes Baker better. That makes the offense better. Think about this, is that he goes out on a fly, he goes out even, 40, 50 yards and it cuts across the field. There will be a safety always in his mind. Oh my gosh, I got to roll towards Odell Beckham Jr. I know he's not the most loved guy, but there was a time when Braylon Edwards took over football games. That's because he caught the football. And we thought, remember, Mohamed Massaquoi could play in the NFL. Why? Because he was one-on-one with people. And I guarantee you, Landry and the guys we have are better than Massaquoi. So having OBJ allows those other guys to go one-on-one. Yes, 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 yes. I say that enough times, Mr. Bacon. This team is much better with Odell. And to boot, he won the Cowboys game for us. But think about this, too. End around jet sweeps, whatever you want to call them, guy in motion. Now you're going to have Schwartz to run them, too. Remember the signs of the old Oakland Coliseum? Speed kills. They should be in First Energy Stadium this year. In fact, Bacon, you know what? You and I are going to get one and hang it up.
There you go. I agree. All right, we're going to move on. 5 Browns with the most at stake this year. This is according to dogpounddaily.com. David Njoku, Greedy Williams, Odell Beckham Jr., Jadeveon Clowney, Baker Mayfield. Which of those do you think has the most? And then you can elaborate and you go on somebody else you think that has a lot at stake there.
Well, number one, you look at Greedy. There's no doubt in my mind. And you remember last year when he walked off the field? Again, I'm not a doctor, but it was after the horrific injury to Delpit. Talk to media people. He was joking with his helmet down, looking fine. Now, if he had searing pain through his shoulder, I don't know that. But also talking to some folks that inside the building, talking to other players, they thought that Greedy was sandbagging it a little bit last year. Let's hope he overcomes that because we were cutting on him in a big way. Njoku, here's what I know. First-round draft choice in 17, right? Our first-round draft choice is supposed to make an immediate impact. 17, 18, 19, 20. Still waiting. His only impact has been drop passes and missed blocks or not blocking in any way, shape, or form. You look at Baker Mayfield last year. He's got a transcend from last year, which is pretty darn good. So that's there, too. Most important position in sports, so you would think that he's the one, but most at stake. I'm going to tell you this. Jadeveon Clowney, out of college with the Texans, moving around, he was a force to be reckoned with. People forget, run stopper more than a pass rusher. I don't care. That's fine because the Browns need one too. So right now, Jadeveon, hear that knocking on the door of big, big money. To me, he's the one with more at stake than anyone else. There was one more player that slipped my mind that you had in that group.
We had Odell and Baker, so those were the other two.
Oh, okay, so there you have it. So Odell, bro, we know what he can do. Okay, now here's his biggest challenge, David: staying healthy. And that's the breaks of that game. It is a brutal game. I'm shocked personally that more people don't get injured. So that is what we know. Odell will catch the football. He'll catch uncatchable balls. And you know what else he does? Makes a quarterback better. You got to have receivers that do that too, that bail out their QB on occasion.
All right, our last topic on the Browns before we go to a break. Roster area of the Browns, and I know we're not even in training camp yet, but roster area that concerns you a little bit. One that you look at and you go, boy,
It's still the linebackers. I heard Doug Lesmerises, you just addressed that. And by the way, getting to be on with you and Doug, who do I owe? That's what I need to know. So, all right. But the bottom line, you know what? No matter what you say, let's hope JOK comes through in a big, big way. Undersized. I know it's a different game, but people forget, still, it's relative. Tom Cousineau played the middle of 215, soaking wet. So if you got the heart, what is the old Woody Hayes saying? It's not the size of the dog in the fight, size of the fight in the dog. That does still have some bearing in the NFL. But, after Walker, after JOK, who has not taken a snap yet in the NFL, I'm very, very, puzzled and curious about the other guys because Taki and Mac Wilson to me have not proven they are, every down or even 3 down worthy linebackers yet in the NFL. So to me, that is the one area. Defensive line is built up, but boy, if you get through that level, the safety is going to have to come up and help a lot. If you're playing 3 of them, they will.
Munch Bishop and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. So we are going to turn our attention to the Tribe. Indians swept 4 games over the Orioles. They open up a series in Pittsburgh tonight. Munch Bishop and I will be talking Indians baseball when we return to Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out. Now, they say they didn't market e-cigarettes to teens? Fact, more than 1 in 4 high school students are vaping, and 80% say their first e-cigarette was flavored. Vaping is harmful to developing brains. The reason we think vaping is safe? Marketing. Same lies, different day. Tell Big Vape to quit lying.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We turn our attention to the Indians getting set to open up a series in Pittsburgh against the Pirates. J.C. Mejia will get the start on the mound for the Indians. And Munch Bishop, Indians 10 games over 500, with which has been a patchwork rotation, patchwork lineup. How are they doing it?
You know what? You tell me. You know what? I'm going to give you one reason. Tito Francona. But think about this. You talk about, we know what a panacea is. It's a cure-all, right? Well, the Orioles coming in, that was panacea number 1. However, we didn't have to play them at their place, which we've seen what has happened the last 2 years, football scores against the Browns. But now you go to Pittsburgh, that helps too. But you know what, David? It's the old adage. And terrific Tito, there you go. He's the best there is in the business, juggling, and he's always been great with that bullpen, always been great knowing about starters. I've always said if he can have 15 pitchers on the team, he would have 15 and use them all. But when people say, well, look who they're beating. David, I want to ask you this. Is it better that they beat the Detroit Tigers, the Baltimore Orioles, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Twins, the Royals? Thank you, sir. How do people even fathom to bring up that question? Well, even with the Browns, they beat so-and-so. So good. They're supposed to do that, and that's what they've been doing, my friend. Take advantage of this because the schedule does not get easier once June is over.
You can only beat the teams that are on your schedule. So, and the Indians have no control over that. Now, Franmil Reyes, Roberto Perez, close to going on rehab starts. How much will they help?
Think about this, my friend. They will help immensely. Right now and throughout the season again. Oh, by the way, haters, I can show you the door if need be, okay? But for the most part, we've had 1 or 2 AAA players in this lineup at times, perhaps 3. We've had 1 or 2 automatic outs in this lineup almost every game. And really, it's nothing Tino can do about that. But the bottom line is your cleanup hitter, a feared cleanup hitter. Franmil Reyes comes back. Also, he's at the 4 spot. Is Eddie at 5, Bradley at 6? You have options. And Bobo, Roberto Perez, one of the best defensive catchers in the league, if not the best. If he can hit 240, we'd be ecstatic. Hit 220. I can't believe I'm even saying that because to me that makes me cringe. But right now, this team has won some games that it has lost. And something else to note. Some of the games it's lost, and you've seen it, drives us crazy. I love roller coasters, David. Up and down, up and down. 5 things to baseball. You catch, you throw, you run, you hit, and you pitch. Last 2 a little bit tougher, but the Indians have struggled at times with the first 3. And, Yu Chang, these are kids you want to root for. And I want to be able to play Wang Chung's everybody Yu Chang tonight, whenever he has a good game, which has been infrequent. But the mental errors have been horrific. You cannot cut off throws to the plate when you have a guy dead to rights. Step on first base. If there's a hit on first and the ball is hit sharply to you, then worry about, get the guy at second when it's that easy. So eliminate them. But of course, Franmil and no doubt Bobo are going to help immensely.
Mark Munch Bishop, as always, appreciate the time and the insights. Remember, you can hear Munch on Sports 1350 AM The Gambler. Munch, appreciate it. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Before we go, we have a voicemail of truth and reason from Ron Byer about the Indians and then the Browns.
Hi, Dave. This is Ron Byer. Dave, I truly believe somewhere in the hereafter, Les Levine is sitting in a hereafter Sokolowski smiling about Terry Francona taking a makeshift baseball team, adjusting their skill levels, and playing old-time small ball, manufacturing runs, and winning ball games. Can they stay competitive, waiting for the starting pitching to get healthy? Only time will tell, but we'll take every win we can get right now. And Dave, as a side note, with the high expectations of the Browns, my son and grandson are here right now visiting me from Florida. My son is a huge Browns fan like me, and I have told him I will fly him home from Florida to the Super Bowl, so we can see the Browns win the Super Bowl together. A father's huge wish to enjoy with his son.
Ron Byer, voicemail of truth and reason. We thought that was the perfect way to end this show on the weekend of Father's Day. So have a great weekend. Have a great Father's Day. We will see you again Monday at 4 o'clock. Sports4CLE. Tom Withers, scheduled guest. See you then. Have a great weekend, everyone.